DCHL Devin here.
And DCHL Alex.
And we're here to give you the first cinematic campaign for the DCHL. What this is if you're familiar with the GBHL, they actually have their own cinematic campaigns where they run through the adventures of Frodo and all of the Fellowship through the entire storyline. And they just do battle by battle as it is in the GW scenarios. We're going to do the same thing, all right? We're not copying them necessarily. We're actually instead going to do The Hobbit. We're going to do the adventures of Thorin Company instead. And we're just going to play that all the way to the Battle of Five Armies. This is actually going to be over the coming months. These are going to be much, much quicker battles, okay? We're thinking one a week. They're going to be 30 minutes or less, really quick scenarios and events and stuff like that. We're not going to do every single scenario. We're not going to do the prologue stuff. Just simply the adventures of Thorin's Company and applying the rules that happen during, like, if anybody knows and read the book, for the GW, the Desolation of Smaug and Battle of Five Armies, they have a continuation where effects happen depending on the results of the battle. We are going to follow that. We'll give you what happened in the beginning of the last match and so forth. Last thing about this one before we start is we are going to do this in a slightly different cinematic style. We're not going to show too many of the dice rolling, a lot of the way we usually do our normal battle reports. So we're still going to do our other battle reports that are just going to be battles, like 650 versus 650, this battle. And it will still be on the fantastic terrain you're used to, made by Right Wargame Terrain. And so we love those boards, so we're going to keep making them. We're going to keep pushing out those battles. Those will happen once in every so while, whenever we get the boards, whenever we get the scenario and the time. But these, since they're a lot quicker, we're just going to do it this way. So, to get into it, what do we got for the first round?
Alright guys, and for the special rules for Roast Mutton, there are 3 of them. The first is Burr a Hobbit. Basically this states that the trolls will not make strikes against Bilbo until the start of the 3rd turn, or until he charges one of them. The next special rule is Daybreak. This basically states that at the start of turn 7 and each turn afterwards, roll a d6. On a 3 or more, it is sunrise and the trolls are turned to stone. Lastly, it's Charge. Basically, after the good player finishes moving his models in the first turn, roll a d6 for each dwarf apart from Keeley. On a 3+, they immediately enter play. Move them onto the board from the marked area. Those who don't enter this turn will enter at the end of your move phase in turn 2.
Alright, so basically this is a race against time. Exactly. Looks like I'm fighting these guys until I can get to turn 7.
Turn 7.
Get rid of them that way. Otherwise, the objective for the match, I guess what we're doing is trying to kill each other. The trolls win if all the dwarves are stuffed in sacks or dead, so he's just basically trying to kill me. And I win if I can kick their butt. So I guess that's the mission. Alright, playing the trolls, it's going to be this guy. Playing Thorin's Company, it's going to be me. So we'll see what happens. Alright guys, so here we have the first battle in the Troll Shaws. We have the 3 trolls, Tom, Bill, and Bert, cooking their roast mutton. And we have Bilbo silently stalking about here in the trees. They're in a forested area in this next to a cave, actually. And you can actually see the flicker of light in it. And we have Killy, whom is going to rush to Bilbo's aid. Now, all of Thorin's Company, you may have noticed in the book, this is actually featured on a 4x4 map, but it's actually kind of pointless to do so because Thorin's Company actually appears all throughout this area, within 6 inches of the trolls themselves. And so we decided to go ahead and shrink the board down to a better 3x4 size so we can get a nice compact battle. They're going to enter in really quick, so we'll see what happens. Alright, and the trolls, one priority for this one, so they don't get to move. And that's okay, because most of Thorin's Company wasn't even on the field. And now here you see, after once the dwarves got to move, they took in on a surprise assault from the marked area described, 6 inches from the campfire. We have Oin here, who failed his courage test. He was too intimidated by the sight of 3 massive trolls just cooking what looks to be a small horse on this thing. Actually, I think it is a pony. And we also had Bomber. Bomber, also fitting enough for the movies, was too afraid to charge this guy. But otherwise, Thorin's Company made it in. Thorin, with help from Biffer and Balin and also Gloin here, all charge right into this troll. And then into the leader troll, Tom, we have Boffer and his help with Dory and also Nori. So Bilbo is still lurking in the shadows. I didn't think it was appropriate to charge him here, mostly because of the fact that he doesn't have the ring. Bilbo is actually quite useless in this fight. The only thing is, I have to reserve my points of might and everything because everything I use is gone for the remainder of the match. And finally, we have Killy. Killy is making his way toward the fight as fast as he can. All the rest of the dwarves will come in on the next turn. They're a little late arrived, but for that we have Dwalin and Philly. Both of those dwarves have not made it into the fight. They're still charging in valiantly. We'll see how these dwarves hold up.
Okay, guys, in the first encounter with the dwarves and the 3 trolls, we've already lost a troll, but let's start with Bert over here. He actually threw stones at Bomber and inflicted 2 wounds, so that was successful. And then we had a combat with...
just so you guys know, one of those wounds was saved by a point of fate, so he actually only has 1 wound right now.
And then Tom, he was able to...
you mean William. Are you talking about William right here?
Yes, yep, that's right. William, he was able to win the fight, and he used the Mincem Fine Brutal Power attack on, I believe that's...
he used it on Buffer. So,
no, he used it on him.
Or you used it on Nori, that's right.
Nori, yeah.
So,
that's right, Nori.
I mean, honestly...
We gotta get the names out. But,
no, I just had to figure out what you were talking about. But, yeah, go ahead.
And that's basically where you roll a d6 and you add their strength value. Whatever the strength value is higher than the dwarfs, that's how many wounds you inflict. So I ended up inflicting 2 wounds.
And Nori managed to save 1 of those.
And he saved 1.
Yep. So, I mean, the dwarves here fought valiantly, but unfortunately Tom is a brutal force. I actually heroic striked every single one of these dwarves trying to get to that 10, but Tom, once he saw him coming in, a single heroic strike brought him to fight 10. I lost the fight instantly. All he had to do was roll a 5. He mightied that to a 6. And pretty much, he took him out. Luckily, my dwarves are still in the fight. However, Thorin's company did a much better job. Thorin actually managed to bring in the fight. Gloin called it a heroic fight. Managed to get me to fight 10. Then, what's his name? I'm sorry. He's no longer on the field because he's being crushed under the weight of dwarves. Tom.
Yep, Tom.
Tom, he also called a heroic fight. Got to 10, however, didn't roll high enough. Rolled a 4 as his top roll. I mean, Thorin, Gloin, and them, they just crushed him. Gloin getting a single wound, Thorin getting a single wound, and Biffer coming in from behind as a spear support, got another wound. So that's 1 troll down, and it's just alerted the trolls, so we're going to see how the trolls want their revenge. Alright guys, so this is turn 2. Now, I decided to put the models back in this kind of weird pose because of the fact that actually the trolls died. I ended up charging Thorin right into the back of Bert. I charged the front Dwalin, and Dwalin and Philly came in finally for turn 2. They charged Bert on the front side, ended up just crushing him. Thorin got multiple wounds. I mean, they trapped him and everything like that. He did use a sneezing attack on Thorin, but it didn't matter because Dwalin just used a heroic fight. As far as William's fight, pretty much it was actually really tough. All the dwarves ended up calling a heroic fight. I pretty much lost a point of might with almost every single dwarf trying to call a heroic fight and trying to match William. But in the end, Nori ended up matching it, and with William, even after William called another heroic fight, burning his last point of might, the roll off for a 4-up went to the dwarves. And this was after we did roll a fight phase, but unfortunately, once again, we did tie. Not unfortunately for the dwarves, of course. And the dwarves then just proceeded on smacking. Because of this campfire, I mean, it was pretty easy for the dwarves to trap and everything like that, and they just rolled multiple dice. And so this is definitely uncinematic. I mean, completely not what happened at all in the movies or the books. And we'll get to that in just a moment in the final report and let you know our thoughts on the scenario. But first, before we get to that, the point of this entire match is to make it a linked campaign. So remember that the trolls don't want to win this match, as it's really impossible for them to win. They're almost double the points the dwarves are, and they honestly stood no chance of winning whatsoever. The point of this match was to get me to burn Might, Will, and Fate, and possibly kill a dwarf or 2 while doing it. That makes it for the rest of the campaign is that much easier for a Zog to take them down. So even though this is completely uncinematic, just remember what the actual point of this whole thing was. All right, guys, so the battle was over. It was extremely quick, and as you saw, no dice rolling or anything like that. But remember, this battle is just the first of many. This whole campaign is the entire battle. It is Alex's mission to just wear me down. So when he finally gets to his Zog and all of the bigger battles, I will be out of might, will, and fate. It's really important for him to use little scenarios like this when he's completely outnumbered, completely outmanned, to make me burn through my will and fate. When you have 3 trolls that outstat me on almost every single way, this is an awesome time to do it. So we're going to give a rundown of who is out of might, will, and fate. First, we have Thorin Oakenshield. Now, what we have to do here is roll a d3, and they recover their might, will, and fate according to that number. So we're going to go ahead and do that. For Thorin, we'll go ahead and say that he actually, just so you guys know, he actually is only... Actually, he didn't use any. He didn't use any might, will, and fate at all. So we'll have to go to the next one here. So Dwalin here. Dwalin is at... What did he use? He used 1 point of might. So for his point of might, we're going to go ahead and roll it. He will get D3, but we already know, of course, the minimum result here is going to be 1. So we already know he's just going to get his 1 might point back. So he will be good to go. He is back at full stats. Next here we have Gloin. Gloin in this match used actually all of his might. He completely burned himself out. So let's go ahead and see what he gets for his D3. And he got a 1, so he only gets 1 might back. Gloin is burnt out on a single point of might, and that is Gloin's stat. Otherwise, he is good to go. Next, we have Balin. Balin actually used a single point of might during this match. So once again, he will get his D3 back. I'm sorry, not his D3. He'll roll a D3, but he'll get a 1, and he'll end up getting the might right back. Next, we have Killy. Killy in this match, he actually did lose a single point of might. Once again, easy to recover. He'll just roll a d3, get the minimum result, and get his might back. So he is back at full strength. Next, we have Philly. Philly did not use any might, will, or fate the entire match. So he is fresh. If you remember, he actually came in a little bit late. So by the time he arrived, all the doors were pile driving trolls with no issue. Next, we have Bomber. Bomber actually took a wound during this match and used a point of fate. So the D3 and getting his fate back is pretty easy. Now, as far as getting his wound back, we're going to have to go ahead and roll a 4 up, see if he gets his wound back. And you guys didn't see it, but we have a 5. So he does get his wound back. He comes back at full strength. Next, we have Nori. Nori during this fight, he was actually fighting against William the entire time, so he did get kind of burnt out. But so he actually took 1 wound. He took all his fate and took a single point of might. So for his D3, he got a 4. So he gets his might and fate back. And let's see if he also gets his wounds back. He does not. So Nori actually stays wounded throughout this match. Next we have Dory. Dory, once again, did not use anything. He was actually in the back. He just wasn't the target of William, so he is good to go. Oin actually was fighting William this entire time. He only used a single point of might. Not hard for him to recover, so he gets that back. Next we have Boffer. Boffer is completely burned out on might. He actually used it all up trying to fight William. So let's see if he gets that 4 or higher. And he got a 3, which is actually a 3 or higher because it's a D3. So he gets everything back. Next, we have Biffer. Biffer was spear supporting Thorin the entire time. Wasn't very hard for him to get to do the fight. He did use a point of might in order to bring that heroic fight up, but that's easy to get back, so he's fine. As for Bilbo, Bilbo, of course, was hiding in the trees and didn't do a damn thing. So he's pretty good to go, so we won't have to roll for him.
All right, and for the special rule, more of a grocer than a burglar, we nominate Bomber. He did absolutely terrible. We were able to throw stones at him, cause a wound. He failed a courage test, and he's fat. So we just nominated him right off the bat. So we deny him his might, will, and fate.
All right, guys. So that's the end of that match. I know it was extremely short. Like I said, no dice rolling, but even then, it was just a 2-turn game. Honestly, we have to admit the scenario, poorly written for a standalone scenario. It's fun, you get 3 trolls and everything, but honestly, the dwarves outnumber them in points by a huge amount. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely outnumbered. I mean, 12 heroes, because, you know, Bilbo just kind of hung around the back, versus 3 trolls. You know, who have Might, Will, and Fate, but not as many as 12 dwarves.
I had a ton of Might, Will, and Fate.
Sure.
That turn 7 thing's never going to happen. I mean, you'd have to get really horribly unlucky. Also, the scenario itself, we kind of agreed that probably shouldn't be a 3-up to let the dwarves in.
You come right on.
I pretty much said just missed Dwalin and Philly. Philly, those are the only 2 that didn't show up on turn 1. But even then, it says all of them show up on turn 2. So,
and the trolls are meant to die. I mean, it's cinematic. It's so tactically there really isn't much of a fight for them. But
yeah, I mean, the trolls will lose. But remember, guys, the point of this match was for him to wear me down. As you may have heard through the cinematic of going through the models, telling you where everyone's at in this. I actually have to roll to get my Might, Will, and Fate back. I have to roll to get everything back. And because of this, actually, there is a modifier to it. We get to pick the one who did the best, and it's the one who did the best, okay? No, I can't pick it through strategic or anything like that. We agree who did the best in the match. They get D6 of their Might, Will, and Fate back. Right. And then there's the one who did the worst, whom you nominated.
Yes, Bomber. And more like a grocer than a burglar. A single good hero is nominated by the evil player. May be chosen to receive no bonus whatsoever. So
exactly.
No Might, Will, and Fate. And it's because he did so poorly in the scenario.
Exactly. This is not for strategic purposes. We are trying to be as fair as possible, which is actually what the book encourages us to do. Then we were also playing by the campaign injury table. So we also went through that as well. Now, we went ahead and the campaign injury table is meant for wounds, just straight up wounds. We actually did apply the D3 to just Might, Will, or Fate, or actually it also includes wounds. So when you saw us rolling to get the wounds back, it didn't seem to really affect anything, but that D3 is actually meant to apply to wounds as well. So from now on, we're going to apply that toward the wounds, but like I said, didn't affect anything whatsoever. That we instead rolled a separate dice for that last thing that you just saw.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead forward, and the next match will be the chase. So join us then. We're going to be doing these about 2 or 1 a week, depending on how we get these done. I mean, depending on our availability. We also are still doing the normal battle reports. And definitely tell us also if you'd like to see the dice or if you'd like to just kind of have us tell you what happened. We don't mind doing either one. In fact, this is kind of easier to film anyway, so if you like this better, all right, great. Until then, anything else?
That's it.
All right, see you next time.